All right, let's dive into a real holiday classic. It's beloved, but also a bit strange. A Year Without a Santa Claus. We'll be looking at some excerpts from the Retro Rewind podcast as we explore this one.
It's pretty interesting how this special reflects the anxieties of America in the wake of Vietnam and Watergate. It came out in '74. Retro Rewind made a good point. America really needed some comfort and escapism, and who better to deliver that than Rankin Bass with their heartwarming stop-motion animation?
Yeah, but this one takes a very unconventional approach.
It really is.
I mean, what happens when Santa just decides to call it quits? Seems like it would just be chaos.
But it takes us on a different kind of journey.
For sure.
And it's surprisingly relevant, even today. The idea of Santa experiencing burnout, feeling overwhelmed, unappreciated, it really resonates with a lot of people, especially during the holidays.
Yeah.
But the special goes beyond just presenting that problem. It offers potential solutions. Through Mrs. Claus.
She's the unsung hero, right? It's easy to get caught up in the spectacle of the Miser brothers, and we'll get to them, I promise.
Yeah.
But Mrs. Claus is the one who's really keeping this spirit of Christmas alive.
Exactly. Her resourcefulness is incredible. One of the key things the creators emphasized, according to Retro Rewind, was her strength and agency. When Santa throws in the towel, she doesn't just sit around moping. She takes action. She rallies the reindeer, embarks on a mission to save Christmas.
Wow.
And she does it all with grace and determination.
Yeah, it's like she is the true spirit of the holidays, finding ways to bring joy to others, even when she's facing personal challenges. Speaking of challenges, I'm curious about how she navigates the whole Miser brothers situation. Those two are forces of nature, literally.
For sure. And that's where her diplomatic skills come in. The way she approaches each brother is so fascinating. With Heat Miser, it's all about flattery, appealing to his pride. If you think about that musical number, she's practically singing his praises, while subtly suggesting that by helping Santa, he can outshine his brother.
It's so clever.
Yeah.
You can see Heat Miser preening under that fiery crown of his. It's really no wonder he gets swayed by her charm. But what about Snow Miser? He seems like a much tougher nut to crack.
True, he is a bit more reserved and less easily impressed. But Mrs. Claus knows just the right buttons to push. She acknowledges his love for winter and points out that a white Christmas brings joy to children all over the world. It's not about changing who he is. It's about appealing to the positive aspects of his nature.
That's such a great insight. It makes me appreciate her character even more. She's not about forcing anyone into submission. She finds ways to understand their motivations and uses that knowledge to achieve a common goal. I guess that's why she's so good at spreading Christmas cheer. She sees the good in everyone, even the seemingly grumpy Miser brothers.
Absolutely. And that's a valuable lesson for us all, especially during the holidays. Sometimes the best way to navigate disagreements is to find common ground. Understand where the other person is coming from. It's not about winning. It's about creating a harmonious outcome.
That's so true. Now, we can't talk about A Year Without a Santa Claus without addressing the elephant in the room, or I guess I should say the Miser brothers in the room. They're iconic, they're quotable, their songs are permanently etched in our brains. What is it about them that makes them so popular?
Retro Rewind devoted a whole segment to that. They had some fascinating insights. It's their contrasting personalities. You have Heat Miser, this fiery, flamboyant extrovert, and then you have Snow Miser, the cool and collected introvert. And this dynamic creates instant conflict and humor. Audiences love that.
I love it too. And their rivalry isn't just played for laughs either. It speaks to a universal sibling dynamic.
Definitely.
We can all relate to that, even if our disagreements aren't about controlling the weather.
Exactly. We've all had those moments of, he's touching my side of the car, or she's breathing my air, but amplified to an epic scale.
Sibling rivalry on steroids, but somehow still relatable. And then, of course, there's the music. Those songs are earworms of the highest order. Heat Miser, Snow Miser, so catchy they defy logic.
Oh, yeah. And there's a reason for that. The composers, Maury Laws and Jules Bass, they were masters of melody, if you listen closely. You'll notice how those tunes get stuck in your head. It's because of their simple, repetitive structure and their catchy hooks. They're designed to be sung along to...
Whether you want to admit it or not.
Exactly.
And the lyrics are so clever and playful, perfectly capturing each brother's personality. It's like they're having a musical duel, each one trying to outdo the other with rhymes and rhythms. No wonder they've become holiday staples.
They're more than just catchy tunes, though. They actually reveal a lot about the characters. Heat Miser's song, it's all about boasting and bravado, while Snow Miser's is more introspective, even a little melancholy.
You know, I'd never thought about it that way. But you're
Yeah.
totally right. There's a depth to those songs
There is.
that goes beyond just being fun to sing along to.
Exactly. And that's part of what makes A Year Without a Santa Claus so interesting. It's got this whimsical surface, this lightheartedness, but underneath there are layers of complexity and even a hint of melancholy.
It's like they're acknowledging that even during the holidays, life isn't always sunshine and reindeer games. There can be sadness and frustration and even burnout.
Exactly.
I mean,
And that's what makes it so relatable. It doesn't shy away from those emotions, but it shows us how to navigate them
Hmm.
through kindness, understanding, and a bit of holiday magic.
I love that. Well said.
Mm.
Speaking of magic, can we talk about the visual style? It's classic, Rankin Bass, but there's something about A Year Without a Santa Claus that feels especially captivating.
Oh, absolutely. One thing Retro Rewind highlighted was the use of color. Think about how vibrant and contrasting everything is. The oranges and reds of Heat Miser's domain, the cool blues and whites of Snow Miser's world, and then those warm hues of Santa's workshop. It's a visual feast.
That's true.
It is.
And the way those colors play off each other really creates this sense of atmosphere
It does.
and emotion. You can feel the heat radiating from Heat Miser, the chill emanating from Snow Miser, and then the cozy warmth of Mrs. Claus's presence.
It's a brilliant use of color to tell a story, and it's one of the things that makes A Year Without a Santa Claus so visually striking.
And it's not just the colors, right? There's a certain charm to the stop-motion animation, the way the puppets move, the expressions on their faces. It's so expressive and engaging.
It's true. Retro Rewind actually had a stop-motion animator as a guest, and he explained some of the techniques that Rankin Bass used. For example, they use replacement animation a lot, creating multiple heads for a character to show different expressions. It's incredibly painstaking work, but it adds so much to the character's depth.
It does. I can only imagine the patience and skill required to animate those scenes.
Yep.
And it pays off. You can really see those subtle nuances in their movements and expressions,
Totally.
which just adds another layer of realism to the story.
And remember, this was all done before computer animation. It's a real testament to the artistry and craftsmanship of those animators.
For sure.
These specials still hold up so well today.
Absolutely. But speaking of holding up, I know there's been some debate about whether A Year Without a Santa Claus is too melancholy. For a holiday special, what do you think? Is it too somber? Or is that part of its appeal?
That's a great question, and I think it's one that Retro Rewind was grappling with as well. The special definitely doesn't shy away from darker emotions. Santa's burnout, the sense of disappointment and uncertainty, those aren't really typical holiday themes.
It's true.
Right.
But doesn't that also make it more relatable? I mean, who hasn't felt a little overwhelmed during the holidays?
That's a good point, and I think the special's appeal lies in its honesty. It acknowledges that the holidays aren't always perfect, we go through ups and downs, and sometimes even Santa needs a break.
That's true.
It is.
And yet, despite those darker undertones, the special ultimately delivers a message of hope
It does.
and resilience. Mrs. Claus's determination, the community coming together to spread Christmas cheer. Those elements remind us that even when things feel difficult, there's always a reason to believe in the power of good.
Exactly. And that's what makes A Year Without a Santa Claus so special. It's not just a sugary, sweet holiday tale. It's a story that speaks to the complexities of life, both good and bad. And it offers a message of hope that transcends the season.
I love that. It's a reminder that even when Santa feels like giving up, the spirit of Christmas can still prevail. But speaking of Santa, we spent a lot of time talking about the supporting cast, Mrs. Claus, the Miser brothers. What about the big guy himself? What does his journey in this special tell us about Santa?
I think it reveals a vulnerability that we don't often see in portrayals of Santa Claus. He's not just a jolly gift giver. He's a complex person with feelings and insecurities just like us.
That's a great point.
And his decision to take a break, it's not about being grumpy or lazy. It stems from this deep sense of disillusionment, from feeling like his efforts are no longer appreciated.
And that's something that a lot of people can relate to,
Oh, for sure.
especially in today's world,
Yeah.
where it's easy to feel overwhelmed
Yeah.
and underappreciated. But the special doesn't leave Santa wallowing in self-pity. It shows him rediscovering his joy and purpose through the actions of those around him, particularly Mrs. Claus.
Exactly.
It's a reminder that even when we feel like giving up, the love and support of others can help us get back on track.
It's a testament to the power of community and the importance of recognizing those who care for us.
Absolutely. But before we get too sentimental, I have to ask, what about that almost disaster with the Miser brothers? Retro Rewind mentioned that they almost didn't make it into the final cut.
I know. Can you imagine a year without a Santa Claus without them? It would be a completely different special. There were concerns that they might overshadow Santa or that their songs were too edgy for a children's show.
It's wild.
It is.
It makes you think about all those behind-the-scenes decisions that shape this classic, makes you appreciate the creative risks that sometimes pay off in the most unexpected ways.
Exactly. It's a reminder that even the most cherished stories evolve through choices, and sometimes those near misses lead to the most memorable moment.
Yeah.
Can you imagine this special without those songs, without those personalities?
Not a chance. I think we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. We've explored the anxieties of a nation, the heroics of Mrs. Claus, and the appeal of two weather-controlling brothers. And we've only just scratched the surface.
There's still so much to unpack.
There is.
We haven't even talked about the stop-motion animation or the cultural impact.
We'll get to all of that, I promise.
Okay.
But for now, I want to leave our listeners with a question. Think about Mrs. Claus's incredible resourcefulness. Can you recall a moment from the special that really shows her strength and determination? We'll be back soon to continue our exploration of A Year Without a Santa Claus.
Okay. Welcome back to our deep dive into A Year Without a Santa Claus.
I hope you'd had some time to think about that question we left you with. What moment really showcases Mrs. Claus's incredible resourcefulness?
There are so many to choose from.
There really are.
Right.
It's just amazing how she manages to stay so positive
Yeah.
and proactive
Yeah.
when faced with such a huge challenge. You know, it'd be so easy to just give up hope when Santa decides to cancel Christmas. But she takes it all in stride
She really does.
and comes up with a plan.
That's what makes her such a great character. Retro Rewind actually compared her to other strong female characters in holiday specials. They made a really interesting point.
Oh, yeah.
Mrs. Claus isn't relying on magic or special powers. Her strength comes from her intelligence, her compassion, her understanding of human nature.
I like that. Speaking of problem solving, I'm still curious about how she convinced the Miser brothers to help. Those two are so stubborn.
It's a testament to her negotiation skills. It all comes down to understanding what motivates them. With Heat Miser, you have to appeal to his ego, flatter him, praise his power, subtly suggest that by helping Santa, he'll be proving he's better than Snow Miser.
It's like she's playing chess,
She is.
carefully calculating her moves to get what she wants.
Yeah.
But Snow Miser seems so much tougher.
Yeah.
He's less concerned with power and more focused on his own domain.
Exactly. That's where her empathy comes in. She doesn't try to change him or force him into doing something he doesn't want to do. She acknowledges his love for winter and points out that a white Christmas brings joy to kids around the world. It's not about manipulating him. It's about appealing to his better nature.
Right.
Finding that common ground.
It's a subtle but powerful distinction. She's not trying to win an argument. She's trying to create a win-win.
That's what makes her such a good leader. She doesn't rely on force or intimidation. She leads with understanding and compassion.
That's so important.
And as we said earlier, it's especially relevant today when empathy and bridging divides is more important than ever.
For sure.
Now, I know we've been focusing on the Miser brothers and their music, but I want to go back to Mrs. Claus for a moment. Retro Rewind highlighted something that I thought was really interesting.
What's that?
When she sets out to save Christmas, she doesn't go alone. She takes Vixen with her, one of the reindeer.
Right.
And that might seem small, but it says a lot about the special's message of collaboration and female empowerment.
Oh, I like that.
It's not about her going off and doing everything herself. It's about recognizing the importance of teamwork
Right.
and relying on the strengths of others.
And the choice of Vixen is interesting, too.
Very much so.
In a lot of depictions of Santa's reindeer,
Mhm.
the female reindeer are usually in the background. But here, Vixen is front and center,
She is.
playing a vital role.
It's a subtle way of subverting gender roles.
I agree.
It really is.
And it's a good reminder that women are just as capable of being leaders, adventurers, and problem solvers.
Absolutely. And their journey together, it's not easy. They face storms, skepticism, even danger.
Wow.
But they persevere. They rely on their strength and determination.
It's really a testament to the power of working together, to
Okay.
collaboration.
It is.
It makes me think about how important it is to have allies, to support us, especially when things get tough.
It's a beautiful message, especially relevant during the holidays, when it's easy to get caught up in everything and lose sight of those connections.
So true. Now, I know we've talked about a lot of serious stuff, but I don't want to forget how entertaining this special is. The music, the animation, the voice acting,
It's great.
it all creates a magical experience.
Retro Rewind interviewed one of the voice actors. They shared some fun behind-the-scenes stories.
Oh, wow.
The recording sessions were apparently full of laughter and improvisation. The actors really brought themselves to the roles.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
You can really feel that energy in the special.
It's like they were having a blast.
It really adds to the warmth and charm.
It does.
You can tell everyone was really invested in the story.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of warmth, I have to mention the music. By Mari Laws, it's so evocative.
It is.
It really captures the mood of each scene. From the whimsical melodies of Santa's workshop to the drama of the miser's confrontations.
Yeah,
The music adds so much
it does.
to the story.
Laws was a master of melody.
He was.
And his work on A Year Without a Santa Claus is no exception. Retro Rewind pointed out that the music actually does more than just set the mood.
Really?
It helps tell the story.
Interesting.
Think about the Miser Brothers songs. They're not just catchy, they're character introductions.
Wow,
We
yeah.
learn about their personalities, their powers, their motivations through the music.
I never thought of it that way.
It's brilliant.
It is.
Using music as a storytelling device.
That's a great point. The music is an integral part of the story.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that makes A Year Without a Santa Claus so unique. Every element works together perfectly. The animation, the voice acting, the music.
It really creates this immersive experience.
It does.
It's amazing.
It really is a testament to the whole team.
Speaking of artistry, I'd love to hear your take on the animation style. We've talked about the color, but what about the puppetry and the movement? What makes Rankin Bass stop-motion animation so distinctive?
It's a combination of things. Retro Rewind actually did a comparison of Rankin Bass's style to other animators from the same time period.
Okay.
One of the key differences is they used limited animation.
What does that mean?
Basically, it means they used fewer frames per second,
Oh,
which gives the animation this slightly jerky quality. Now, a less skilled animator would make that look awkward,
right.
but Rankin Bass used it to their advantage.
They did.
They created this unique style, nostalgic and whimsical.
I agree.
Those jerky movements add to the charm. The characters feel more like they're from a storybook than
Yep.
a modern movie.
For sure.
It's a style that really works well with the tone of their specials. Warm, inviting, a little bit old-fashioned,
Yeah.
which adds to that feeling of nostalgia.
And the puppets themselves are so expressive. Their faces just have so much character, even with the limited movement.
It's amazing what the puppet makers and animators could do.
It is.
They were able to show so much emotion. Through tiny changes in facial expression and body language.
And they're so memorable. Think about Heat Miser's grin, Snow Miser's frown, Mrs. Claus's twinkling eyes.
So good.
Instantly recognizable.
It's the power of visual storytelling.
Yeah.
They're able to show so much about the characters without even needing dialogue.
Right.
We understand their motivations, their emotions, their relationships, just through how they look and move.
It's like sometimes the best communication isn't even verbal.
Rankin Bass really understood that. They
Yeah.
were masters of visual storytelling. And A Year Without a Santa Claus is a great example of that, creating these characters that are both captivating and resonant.
Speaking of emotional resonance, I want to go back to the special's melancholy tone. We talked about how that sadness can be a strength.
Yeah,
It makes the story more relatable. And the message of hope more powerful.
it's true. The special doesn't shy away from darker emotions, and I think that's part of why people still love it. It shows that life isn't always perfect, even during the holidays. But Retro Rewind made a connection between that tone and the time it was released.
Oh, interesting.
Remember, this came out in 1974, post-Vietnam, Watergate. There was a lot of uncertainty in the air.
Right.
They suggested that the melancholy tone might have resonated with audiences back then.
It makes sense.
It was reflecting the mood of the country.
That's really insightful. It's like the special was tapping into something, acknowledging that even during the holidays, there can be sadness and anxiety.
Exactly. And that's why A Year Without a Santa Claus is timeless.
Right.
It speaks to those universal human emotions that we all experience, no matter what's happening in the world.
Absolutely.
And the special gives us a way to deal with those emotions through kindness, compassion, belief in the power of good.
It's a message that's still relevant.
Oh, for sure.
That's why it's so beloved.
Yeah.
It's not just an escape. It's a story that shows how complicated life can be.
Yeah.
And it offers hope.
And don't forget those catchy songs. And the Miser Brothers.
Of course not.
They're pop culture icons.
They are.
But I think there's more to it than that. They represent these opposing forces that we all deal with. Passion versus reason, control versus acceptance.
It's like our internal struggles,
It is.
but played out in this fun, over-the-top way.
And in the end, they learn to work together.
They do.
They find a balance. It's a great message.
Especially in today's world.
But things feel so divided.
A year without a Santa Claus reminds us that even people who seem totally opposite can find common ground and work towards a common goal.
So true. But as much as I love talking about the deeper meaning, I have to ask, who would you rather hang out with? Heat miser or snow miser?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is.
They both have their charm.
We do.
Are you drawn to Heat Miser's fiery energy?
Ooh, fire.
His outgoing personality?
Or are you more of a snow miser fan?
Cool and collected. A lover of winter wonderlands.
It's a hard choice,
It is.
but it tells you a lot about yourself.
It does.
Are you a summer person or a winter person?
Do you like the spotlight,
Yeah.
or do you prefer to blend in? It's a fun thought experiment. Makes you appreciate how complex these characters are.
guys.
But before we see what our listener said.
I have another question.
Okay.
We've talked about the importance of belief,
Yeah,
but it's not just about believing in Santa.
right.
What other kinds of belief are explored? And how do those beliefs help save Christmas?
That's a great question.
It really gets to the heart of the special.
It does.
Yeah.
We'll explore those themes of belief and community when we come back after a short break. Welcome back to our deep dive into A Year Without a Santa Claus. Did you have a chance to think about those other kinds of belief at play in this special?
Yeah, it really adds another layer to the story.
For sure.
On the surface, it's all about talking reindeer and the Miser brothers.
Right.
But underneath, it's about the power of belief. Believing in yourself, in others, in positive change.
I like that. Retro Rewind had a good point about Mrs. Claus.
What's that?
She really embodies that belief more than anyone else.
I think so too.
She never gives up on Santa, even when he's feeling down.
Yeah.
And she believes that she can make a difference, even when it seems impossible.
Exactly. Her belief is contagious. She rallies the reindeer. She convinces the Miser brothers.
Wow.
She inspires Santa.
It's her faith that makes it all happen.
It is.
She doesn't need superpowers.
Nope.
Her belief is her strength.
I think that's a great message
It is.
about the power of belief in our own lives. Whether it's believing in ourselves, supporting our loved ones, or fighting for something we believe in,
Yeah,
it can really motivate us.
it really can. And it's not just Mrs. Claus. The special shows us the power of community belief, too.
It does.
Think about those scenes where people all over the world are doing good deeds, spreading Christmas cheer, even though Santa's gone.
Right.
They don't need Santa to remind them to be kind. They
Exactly.
can do it on their own.
And that collective belief is what brings Santa back. It's not just about the presents. It's about recognizing the true meaning of Christmas.
Love, compassion, connection.
That's what matters.
That resonates with me,
Me too.
especially in a world that can be so negative. This special reminds us that there's still good out there,
Absolutely.
that we can make a difference.
It's a message for all year round,
It really is.
not just for the holidays.
Okay, but enough with the serious stuff. It's time to talk about the Miser brothers. We asked who you'd rather spend the day with. I'm sure we got some interesting answers.
I can't wait to hear them.
Me neither.
It's a tough choice.
It is.
Are you Team Heat Miser? Ready for some fiery adventures?
Or Team Snow Miser.
Cool, calm, and collected.
It's a big decision.
It is.
It reveals a lot about you.
For sure.
Makes you think.
It does.
Appreciate those characters even more.
So what did our listeners say?
Well, we got a ton of responses. Some people love Heat Miser's energy. Some prefer Snow Miser's chill vibes.
That's great.
It's all in good fun,
It is.
but it shows how much people love these characters.
They've become iconic.
They have.
They're more than just cartoon villains. They represent those different parts of ourselves. The yin and yang.
I like that.
Like the angel and devil on your shoulder.
Our fire and ice.
Exactly.
But Rankin Bass made them so whimsical and fun.
They did.
That's what makes this special so great.
It takes simple ideas and gives them so much depth.
And heart.
And it reminds us that even opposites can work together
That's a good
for
message.
any time of year.
It really is. Well, I think we've covered just about everything. The deep themes, the catchy songs, the amazing characters.
I think so.
It's been a real deep dive.
We've explored so much.
We have.
The history, the animation, the music, even the psychology of the Miser brothers.
It's been fun.
It has.
As we wrap up, I'm going to leave you with one last thought. A year without a Santa Claus reminds us that the holidays are about more than just gifts.
Right.
They're about connection and compassion, celebrating the important things.
So true.
So whether you're Team Heat Miser or Team Snow Miser, spread some kindness this holiday season.
And keep believing in yourself, in others, in the good in the world.
That's what this special is all about.
That's the message we should remember
Absolutely.
long after the holidays are over.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into a year without a Santa Claus. We'll be back soon.
With another exploration of a pop culture classic. Until then, happy holidays. And keep those conversations going.